A conversation like Brexit, which involved conversations about race, nationality, national identity, and so on, was always going to encourage a racist, a xenophobic element. And I think that's definitely what we've got, and it's manifested itself particularly in the migrant crisis, which we're dealing with in a nationalist and insular way, rather than looking to the wider European community, to the wider continent, or indeed to the global community, to address an issue which is going to become an issue of significance to the global community, is already an issue weighing very much on the southern countries of Europe, and is beginning to be felt in the northern countries, in the Netherlands, in Sweden, and so on. And it was something that I certainly noticed when I was observing UKIP, and I became a member of UKIP to see whether or not UKIP was encouraging racism, or whether racism was being encouraged by mistake or error. And I think the answer was yes, it was. Farage himself was unable to control the rise in racism, the rise in racist rhetoric and racist jokes, and there was one in particular that I called out, and Farage appropriately turned around and says, "Well, it's just a joke, can't you take a joke?" And the answer is no, he couldn't, and no, he shouldn't, and something which is offensive is offensive. One of the things that became obvious to me as I penetrated the UKIP organisation was that a lot of the higher members of the UKIP admin, not the ordinary card-carrying members who were, for the most part, disgruntled Tories, the control area was mostly made up by people with a distant affiliation to BNP and to the EDL, the English Defence League, and so on. And that shouldn't come as any great surprise. And indeed, Farage himself fell foul of this when he stood for election to Parliament, and the people in his local constituency were revealed to have been part of these organisations in the past. And, you can't avoid that association. So I think I was right to look more deeply to try and identify that. I know occasionally I tick comments, and I tick the wrong comments, and there's so much going on that I can't always be sure that I've ticked or not ticked what. And by the time I realise that something is inappropriate, I've already gone past it, and so I'm sorry if anything is popping up in the comments box which looks as if I've approved it or given a thumbs up when in fact it's completely foul. I would repudiate anything that encourages anybody to support the BNP or the English Defence League or any of these racist organisations. And I will go back and try to prune anything if somebody lets me know. But for the most part, I read very quickly, and sometimes things slip by, mostly because by the time I've realised what I've read, the comment has gone, and I've already ticked it or given it a love heart or whatever. It's the only way to get rid of these comments after all. If you don't give it a tick, a thumbs up, you have to give it a thumbs down. And I'd rather not give things thumbs down unless they absolutely merit it. And I think racism does merit it, but as I say, sometimes I'm doing the thing too quickly to realise. So anything that supports Adam Walker, Nick Griffin, John Tyndale, and those other individuals wouldn't really get my support. And I think it's on the rise, and I think we're going to see a resurgence of racism in our society, and that's a great, great shame. I think we should do everything we possibly can to stop it. But that means we need to deal with the migrant issue. That means we need to deal with the not only the rise in abusive language, but also the reasons that lie behind that. We need to make sure we're dealing with the problem. And if the government is presenting migration as a problem, which in fact it really isn't, we need migration. The migration to this country is minimal, and a lot of the people who are being accused of being, quote, illegal migrants are in fact our Afghan migrants who are caught up in the migrant limbo that Suella Braverman and her predecessors have caused. If we had a Home Office that actually did some work, then we really wouldn't have these problems and we really wouldn't have people living in hotels. But do remember, Suella Braverman signed deals with hotel chains that will last for many years. So if she sorts out, if she gets all the migrants out of hotels, she's still got that deal. We're still paying for hotels. What are we going to put in those hotels? I would suggest we put homeless people. But that's just my suggestion.